Well, hello, and welcome back. So I am actually about to go on vacation, kind of, sort of. I'll still be doing some work, but I'm about to leave town, and so I'm just gonna do a little something ad hoc before I go because I still have to do some packing and whatnot. But I'm going to take our blog that we've been working on, and I'm going to do continuous deployment with it. Oh, and by the way, I'm AJ O'Neill. I'm your Beyond Code instructor. And if you find this to be valuable, give it a like some point, during when you find it to be valuable. If you have any questions or comments, do that. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this from being a blog that's actually hosted, it's Git hosted on its own server. It's not using GitHub. And I'm going to switch it over to GitHub, and then I'm going to add Git deploy to it so that whenever a push happens to GitHub, a webhook happens to the Git deploy server, and then the Git deploy server runs a script that then publishes the site. So this site I'll be able to edit it and add articles in GitHub, and then it'll republish itself, and we'll see that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, let's see, we want to go to GitHub, and I'm going to create a new repository. And I'm actually going to leave this private for now. We're going to call this beyondcodebootcamp.com because that's what it's going to become. And I don't think I need a description for it. I don't need to do anything here. I actually want to leave it empty. I'm going to go ahead and create repository. And then I'm going to take the SSH URL. I'm going to grab that. And I am going to replace, in my project directory here, I'm going to do a Git Remote rename. And we're going to rename origin to, I guess, demo? No. Let's call it upstream. We'll call it upstream. This actually is the canonical. So then I'm going to do a Git Remote Add, and I'm going to call the thing that I'm adding origin, and I'm just going to paste in the Git URL for that. So now if I do a Git Push, and I'm just going to go ahead and change the name of this from master to main as well. So I'm going to do git checkout -b main. And then we'll do git push -u origin. -u means, it means follow for some reason. Basically, it means attach the two. So I'm going to say, what I'm saying with -u is we're going to push this main to the origin, which is now GitHub, because I just added it as GitHub, to the origins main and make the two stay in sync, essentially. So local main and remote main are going to be the same main. And you need to do that the very first time you push something to a new repository. Otherwise, it won't actually set up tracking, and then you have to do git push origin main every single time rather than just being able to do git push. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that there. And I'll actually go ahead and do a git push --all because there might be a couple of other branches that I've got here. Yeah, all right. So with that, now the project is on GitHub. So if I go over here and I hit refresh, we can see that the project is indeed on GitHub. And what I need to do now is I need to set up a webhook. I already have a server that is running Git deploy, which you can get on webinstall.dev/gitdeploy if you want to set it up for yourself. And you'll see what it is in just a minute. But I go in here and I go to webhooks. And then I say add webhook. And then I typity in my password. And then I just happen to know the name of this by heart. I think I do. I might actually have to go look at another one that I've got to double check. Let me see here. Actually, I'll go to the cheat sheet. Install.dev/gitdeploy. And let me go check to make sure what is that supposed to look like? Settings hook new, da 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 da. And then where? Okay. /API/webhooks/GitHub. So I got it slightly wrong. There we are. But I'm going to add my webhook URL here. There we are. And this should be JSON. And for the secret, I'm going to have to drag this off to the side of the screen because there is a secret that's already set up that I need to use for the server that I'm going to be sending this to. And yeah, this all looks good. So give me just a second here to log into the server that has the secrets. All right, and I see the GitHub secret here. And I'm just going to drag this off screen and paste in the secret and then hit add webhook, and then I'll drag it back over. And now we can see that the webhook has been added. But, as it were, the webhook will have nothing to do. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention this, but I do have the comments open up on YouTube and Twitch. Oh yes, hello, welcome, thanks for watching. So I'm going to now add a deploy script. So Git Deploy has deploy scripts. That's what a lot of this stuff here in the cheat sheet is explaining, is how you set up an example deploy script. And this one is actually, I need to update this cheat sheet because there is a newer, better way to do this now. So I will just go on with that way. But make a mental note to go update that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a directory called Git Deploy. And this instance of Git Deploy that I'm running is already trusting a fair number of repositories. Actually, in fact, I think I do need to update it, though, to trust the Beyond Code repositories, because I don't actually have it trusting those yet. So give me just a second. In the other screen where I have some secrets and config information, I'm just going to add github.com/beyondcodebootcamp/star to trusted repositories. And let me make sure. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this. So basically what I'm telling it, I'm not going to grab the HTTPS part, but I'm just going to put in something that it can match on to say that when it gets a webhook from any repository in the organization Beyond Code Bootcamp, that it's going to be allowed. So I am actually over in the other screen. Well, I can bring this over now, actually. I'll bring it over. So I'm going to run sudo system control restart git deploy. And now my changes will take effect. So now that instance of Git Deploy is going to trust not only the secret that it's getting from GitHub, but also specifically anything within the Beyond Code Bootcamp organization. Okay, so now I'm going to make this directory.getDeploy, and I'm going to put inside of it a script, deploy.sh, and I'm going to do, basically, we already have a deploy script set up on the, what I now renamed the upstream origin. So basically what I want to do is just copy the repository and then have it push. Basically it's cloning from GitHub, and then it's going to push to the other repository that already had the deploy script set up that we've done in other videos. So I think what I need to do here is git fetch --unshallow, because the way Git Deploy works, it does a git clone, but it does a shallow clone. That way, in case the repository is really big, it only clones a tiny bit of it. So by doing a git fetch unshallow, I tell it to go ahead and fetch everything. And that's okay for a small repository like this, because this is not going to have a lot of ton in it, so it's not going to eat up a bunch of bandwidth. And you can only mirror from a full clone repository to a non-full clone repository. In fact, I could just redo the clone, but whatever. Anyway, so then I'm going to do a Git Remote Add Upstream, and I'm going to give it, let me go ahead and check what my config is here for, whoops, not that, my Git config. What's my upstream? This right here is my upstream. So I'm going to copy that and go back into here. Tell it you're going to add this as an upstream. And then I'm going to do a Git Push of origin main. So really this is only going to have effect when the main branch is updated, but that'll be okay. And what I'm going to need to do this, the Git deploy server is going to, we're going to need to take the public key from the Git deploy server, and we're going to add that to the server that is actually the server that's doing the deployment. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So we're doing a lot of stuff here. This is not necessarily a lesson. This is more, I've got some stuff that I actually need to work on, and so I'm just live streaming while I'm working on it. But I'll try to explain things best I can as we go. And again, if you've got questions, I am trying to keep an eye on the chats. Okay, so let me bring this back up over here. Now we've got this nifty SSH pub key, which comes in super handy. So I am on the deploy server. I run SSH-pub key, which is something that I installed with Webby. If you want to learn more about that, it's webinstall.dev/ssh-pub key. Very easy to get on your system to be able to use it, but it prints out the public key here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then I need to sign in to the other server. So let me see if I can make this bigger. We're going to sign into beyondcode.duckdns.org. And I just need to add that public key from the Git deploy server to this server that actually runs the true deployment. So I'm going to go into the SSH authorized keys here. This is all public information, all public keys, no big deal. And I'm just going to add the public key for the Git deploy server. Okay, so now I'm going to close this one out, and I'm going to run this process manually to make sure that it should work as expected. So let me get out of here. I'm no longer on that build server. Now I'm back on my main computer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the GitHub URL. So let me go here and just grab it. I'm going to log in to my server that is the Git deploy server that does the builds. And I'm going to do a git, I'm going to go into the temporary directory. I'm going to do a git clone -- depth equals 1, and then paste that clone URL there. And then I'm going to go into that directory, and this should represent the state that Git deploy will be in when it runs the deploy script. So I will do a git fetch -- unshallow, and let's see if this works as expected. Okay, it looks like it did. And then I will do a git remote add, and let me go ahead and I'm going to open up a new tab and get back to my project directory here. And take a look at what my script was going to be. So I'm just going to copy this, and then I should be able to do a git push origin main, and we should see that it just says up to date if everything went well. So there I'm doing my Git Remote Add, Git Push origin main. Everything up to date. Cool. So it looks like that's going to work just fine. So I should be safe now. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. Whoops. Exit out of here. Exit out of here. There we go. Now it's back to the size that it ought to be. So that looked like that worked perfectly. So I think we're safe to go ahead and add this to the repository. And then for good measure, I might want to also create a new article. Let's say I go under articles. I'm going to copy this article here, just so I've got the same format. How to use Git deploy. And I'm not actually going to put in much useful information. I'm just going to say see cheat sheet at webinstall.dev/git deploy. Actually, to do, that needs updating. And I won't put anything else in here for now. That'll be it. So I will add that article. I will add my deploy script. And I will say add git deploy. Now when I do this push, let me check my remotes -v. So we can see we got origin is set to GitHub, upstream is set to the Beyond Code server that's actually running the site. So when I do git push, it's going to push to the origin because that's I used -u to set that up. So now if I log back into the git deploy server, which I will, and I check the logs, so sudo journal control -zfoo and then git deploy, I should see, oh how sad, invalid GitHub signature. Okay, so something went a little bit wrong here. I'm going to have to test and see what that is. I'm going to go ahead and take this. What probably happened, what I suspect happened, is that I copied an extra space or something. Whoops, I did not want to do that. Oops. There we go. I probably copied an extra space or something when I copied over the deploy key. So I'm going to go back in here on the other screen, going into my Git deployed directory. I'm double checking my environment variable, double checking my GitHub secret. I'm going to copy it again. And then I'm going to go back to the webhook. So for this, I'm probably going to need to drag this screen again to the other side in just a moment. So I'm going to go to webhooks. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click edit. And I'm going to update the secret. I'm just going to double check. Do the secrets look the same? Secrets look the same. Does there appear to be an extra space at the end? No, there doesn't. So I don't see anything there that looks wrong to me. That looks right. But it's saying that the signature didn't match. Very interesting. I'm going to check and see what else I have here that is on GitHub. And then I'm going to go check the repository. Okay, I've got other projects that are on GitHub here. So I'm sorry that I'm doing this in the other window. I can actually start this process over here so that you can watch along. But I got another project, the web install project, Also has a Git hook for the dev server set up over here. So I should be able to go to settings and go to webhooks. And then I have to pull this over again. But I'm going to click the edit button. And I'm just going to make sure that I copy everything verbatim between these two. So they should have the same payload URL, which it looks like they do. Same application type. They have a different secret. I wonder, did I copy the wrong secret? Oh, I did. There was a comma. There was actually two secrets. All right, well enough. Well, in that case, I might as well add a third. And no, I'll keep it with two. It's fine. Let's see. Boom. All right. Now, let me go back over here. And I'm just going to update that article that I created a moment ago. And we'll just put some stuff in here that's actually slightly useful. So that's the webhook URL. And then to generate a random, let me pull this up here. I've got a little alias. When I type R&D, it generates a random string. Let's see if I can get it. I'll just have to look at the alias. I thought there was a way to get it to print out what the alias is. But I think it's this bad boy right here. Indeed it is. I need to put that as one of the things that you can install with Webby. Just have an R&D command that just runs that. Okay. But I'm gonna put that here. Web hook URL, content type, generate random secret. That looks a bit more scary than it is. Kind of makes me want to use the simpler version. Maybe I will. Let me go back here. Edit this again. Wait. Okay, cool. Yeah, that one's less scary. We'll just use that one. It's just using hexadecimal instead of base 64, so it's a little longer. Same entropy. Anyway, so I got that. I went ahead and added it. I'm going to commit it, update, git deploy, article. There we go. Push. And then, if we're lucky, what we should see is we should get a new article here. I'm not getting a new article. Got to debug. So I'm going back onto the beta server, going back to looking at the logs. Let's see what went wrong. Git deploy. Cloning into, could not read username for. I think I know something else I need to do. I'm going to take this on to the other screen real quick. Sorry for that, but think I didn't set up the SSH quite right. So I'm going to check over here and then I'll bring it back over if I can show it to you. Which hopefully I can. So there's a .git config. If I don't, oh yeah, I've got some private stuff in there, so I can't show that to you directly. But essentially what it amounts to is that I need to set the git config to use SSH URLs when it encounters HTTPS URLs. So let me see, what did we have here? Git Remote -v. Need to take a look at that again. So yeah, if it's encountering github.com, it should instead use SSH git at github.com. I think that's going to fix the problem. So the SSH should work right. And then I'm just going to bring log files over here in just a second so you can see again. All right. So we're going to be able to see the log files momentarily. But what I need to do is I'm going to go back into the history. So I did git log. I'm just going to grab the prior point. Actually, I didn't even need to do that. I'm just going to reset head ~1. So this means I'm just going to say, take the git history and move it 1 backwards. Oh, before I do that though, I need to make sure I grab the most recent history. There we go. So git reset head ~1, and then I'm going to do a force push just to reset. Basically, I'm just going to take the commit a step back and then move it a step forward again. So I'm going to force push that, and then I'm going to do a git reset to the current commit, and then I'm going to do a git push again. So this is just going to trigger the build process. Is essentially all it's going to do. So we should be able to see here. All right. Triggered the process. It's cloning. Everything's up to date. Exited successfully. Git deploy. All right, did that run? Didn't seem like it ran. Debugging, debugging, debugging. All right, this did add. Oh, you know what? Upstream. That's what I didn't do right. I need to push upstream. All right, let's try that one more time. Oh, let me show you that again. So I added the remote upstream because I'm cloning from origin. That's the default name whenever you clone something. So I'm adding this remote that I'm essentially mirroring to. So I'm saying add the upstream and now mirror git push upstream main, mirror main to upstream, which is that URL, which is that server. And that server has its own process, which is what we've had in previous videos that we set up so that does the deployment. So I am, David, I am running, if you're still around, so I am running on Linux and on Mac. So when I'm logged into a remote server, like the Git deploy server, that is Linux. When I'm pushing to GitHub, that is Linux. But when I am in the black window here, this is Mac. But the commands are essentially the same. There's a couple of key differences from time to time, but for the most part, they're the same. Okay, so I added that. Let me do git status, git commit, and push to upstream was the change that I made. So let's do that. And then if we watch the logs in the other channel here, this is the Linux box. We can see that there was an event added to the queue. It's doing the clone. It's running the script. Please, could not read from remote repository. Could not resolve host name. That's very strange to me. So I think what we need to do is I need to run this process manually again. So I'm going to go back into my temp folder. I'm going to clone from GitHub, shallow, clone. Let me go back over here. Because somewhere in the process this is failing, and it's probably just one of those. When we do it by hand, we'll see where the error is, and the error message will be clear. Okay, totally unrelated GameCube homebrew question here. A homebrew that expands the number of controllers you can plug in? I have no idea. I doubt that exists because that's a physical hardware thing. All right. So I'm going to clone the repository for this website. Oh, it already exists. So I'm going to delete it first. I'm going to clone it. And I'm on the Linux server where the deployments are taking place. So I'm going to clone it. I'm going to go into the directory. I am going to take a look at what the deploy script is. Well, that's interesting. Okay, there we are. It does have the git deploy there. So git deploy. See our deploy script. Let me cat this out. And let's just run these steps one by one to see if it works. Okay. So okay, I need to actually back out. We're going to delete this again. Thing I didn't do in this manual process is I did not do a shallow clone, but we need to do that so that we're doing exactly the same process on both of these. Oh, depth equals 1. Okay, so I'm going to go into this directory here. And I am going to cat out our git deploy script and follow with this process. So the question, do I think with regards to the GameCube homebrew, do I think it would be possible to have such an adapter? Wait, like GameCube controller to SP2 adapter as a controller via controller memory card slots. So I'm going to say no. Well, is it possible? Everything's possible. There is a controller that plugs into the memory card slot on the GameCube. It's a microphone controller for something that's kind of like one of those pitch games where you sing into it. It's like an early version of that. It was only released in Japan. So yes, the EXI port, which is what the microphone plugs into, can handle anything. But is it reasonable to do it? No. You would have to have hacked games as well as running homebrew. At that point, I think that if you looked at the Dolphin emulator, you might find something along those lines for the Dolphin emulator, but not the physical hardware. I don't think it would be reasonable for somebody to come up with an adapter that does that. But yes, is it possible? Yes, everything is possible if you invest enough time and energy and effort into it. Okay, sorry for going on the tangent about the GameCube stuff, but since we got Dave here and he's asking questions, I'm going to go ahead and answer them. All right, so now I need to do step by step my process that is in the git deploy script, and it looks like it's going to work. So I might be a little bit stumped here as to why this is not working. Add the upstream, done. Git push upstream main. Good. Excellent. So we do have a problem here. What is our problem? I know exactly what it is. It is the ~/. That's what our problem is. So I'm going to do a git remote rm. Actually, I'm just going to rerun this. Basically, let me explain this. So there's different URL schemes for being able to provide a URL to a repository. There's HTTPS, there's SSH, there's Git, etc. And there's small differences between them. When you use the SSH prefix to a Git scheme, you cannot also use tilde. If I were to get rid of the SSH prefix, it would know that it's SSH by default and tilde would be allowed. So I either need to get rid of the prefix or get rid of the tilde slash. I'm actually going to choose to get rid of the tilde slash because that's just how I roll. So let's do this. Got rid of it, add it, fix upstream URL, push, and now let's get back to watching our logs, which they'll be happening right now. Come on, was it that far back? I guess it was. What? Could not read from remote repository? Still? Could not resolve host name. Okay, something else is going on here. Let me take a look again. What? I've got some other syntax problem with this thing. Let me go ahead and do a git pull here. I should grab the latest. Do I need to do, maybe I need to do slash there? Would that be right? You know what? I'm going to go back and go to doing it this way. Because that I know is going to work. I'm getting some syntax wrong here. Silly thing. And I'll go ahead. I could test it. I could test it there. But I could just commit again and test it this way. So let's just get rid of the SSH prefix. It'll know that it's SSH because that's the default. And then that should work. So if this doesn't work, then I'll spend some more time manually testing it by hand, which if I'd done the last time, we wouldn't be having this problem, but yeah, tomato, potato. Really fix upstream URL. Excellent commit message. And then let's go over and look at the log output again. Okay, cloning, running the script, exited successfully, host key verification failed. That one I'm a little bit confused about. I understand what that is. I'm a little bit confused about it because we already did this, didn't we? Maybe we didn't. I'm going to go ahead and run git pull again. All right, let me do git reset, git checkout. So I just got rid of my local changes, doing a git pull. And then I'm going to run my script and see what happens here. Remote upstream already exists. Okay, so git remote rm upstream. Fine, we'll do that. Okay, I see what the problem is here. So the first time you log into a server, it's going to ask you, do you know this server? Are you sure? Do you really want to connect to it? Is it the right server? And so since we can't interactively respond in a script, what we can do, and some people are going to argue against this, and that's fine, but what we can do is we can tell it not to do strict host checking. I'm not going to go into that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to run that command again. Since I'm running it manually, I'm just going to hit yes. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. And then I'll go ahead and make another change just to be able to test that this is working. So now let me go back to articles, how to use Git Deploy. I'll go back to this. I'll just put a note here. Note, make sure to log into the upstream server from the Git Deploy server to say yes to unknown host warnings. That was the problem we just had. So I'll add that there. Now I've got my blog article. I'm going to say add note on SSH host checking. That's what we did. Git push, and what we want to do, I didn't do that yet, but I want to have the logs up so we can watch the logs running. So get the logs back up, clear out the screen, hit enter, and then let's see the logs running. And hopefully this time, finally, we'll see that everything is successful. All right. And it looks like it is. So if I go back to the website and I refresh, we should see the new article. We're not seeing the new article. Is that under projects? No, it's not under projects. How strange. You know what it may be? I have a thought. I have a thought on this. The script that it's running may be checking out the master branch, which I renamed the master branch to main. So let's check into that real quick. Script, remote deploy. Let's see. No, it doesn't look like that's the issue here. Could be though, could be. What else have I got? We've got the build script. I think I had some other scripts in the repository here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in to the server that's doing the deploys. I'm going to go into the place where this Git repository actually lives. And I'm going to look at the hooks, and I'm going to check for the post receive hook, which we talked about this before. And I'm pretty sure this was in that repository. Do we see master in here at all? Git clone, working tree. What's that? Run, server deploy. No, that looks fine. Never as simple as you think it's going to be. Never. All right, let's see, what went wrong here? Let's take a look at this. Do we see the article in the list of things? How to use Git? What's being cloned here? Let's just double check on GitHub that in fact the default branch is main. I'm pretty sure that it is here. And when it does the git clone, it should be checking out main anyway. We're pushing to main. We're pushing to GitHub. Just double check that GitHub is up to date here. Yeah, it's got this push from, let's see if we go into articles. We should be able to see how to use Git deploy. There's our article there. But we don't see it here. I'm not quite sure why that is. Let's see if there's anything. Cloning. Articles. It definitely seems like it's on a different branch or something. Makes me want to try one more thing. Let's see, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to go back into the server that's actually doing the deploys. And I'm going to go into the project repository. And I'm just going to see if it can tell me what branch it's on. It's on master here. I think that's our problem. I don't know how we force this to change branch. So git branch. How do we do this from a bare repository? Can I just tell it to set the branch? Old branch, new branch, track, merged. I might have to Google this one. Let's see. How to switch branches on bare repository. So that's how we would switch the branch, I guess. Interesting. All right, where was I at? This one is the one where I'm logged into the server that's the deploy server. Yes. Did that work? It did work. Okay. I'll have to think about this for the future, because what I would expect is that when we push, that it would deploy the branch that we push to, but it makes sense that it's not. I know why it's not, because we're doing a post receive, and the post receive doesn't actually get the branch name. So we just had it set to assume master, and it would just be redeploying master every time, which is fine. All right. Now okay, let me log out of that server. Logging out of that server. And I'm just going to add, okay, I don't want to be in that. This is the Git deploy server. This is my local system. Let me open up the article. Let's add another note here. We're going to use this command if you need to switch the default branch of the deploy server from master to main. Sure. Add note on switching branch of bare repo. Let's go back over here. Let's look at the log output. Looks like it should run in just a second. There it goes. I think this is going to totally 100% work this time. I think we're finally there. I think we've arrived. Let's see. How to use Git deploy. Yes. Excellent. That was it. That was it. We refresh. And there's our new article. Excellent. Why it's not being sorted by date is beyond me, but we'll take what we can get for now. Okay, cool. So last thing here, the whole purpose of this little bit that we did was so that now when I'm on GitHub, if I want to create a new article or edit an article, I can. So I should be able to go into this, how to use Git deploy. I can click the edit button. I can change something about this. Let's see. There. Just add some more detail to this. Go ahead and hit commit changes. And then we probably have to wait about 10 seconds or so for the whole process to go through. But if we look at the logs, yep, job's firing off. Looks like it's going to run. So now I've got this set up so that when I make an edit on GitHub, my website is updated. So go back here, look at the blog article, how to use Git deploy, and then boom, our updates are there. So huzzah. It all worked out in the end. Well, with that, I will bid you adieu. I have got to get myself some sleep before the flight in the morning, and I still have to do some packing, but I did want to do some sort of stream before I went because I'm trying to do those and make incremental progress and all that. So if this was helpful for you at all, if you learned something, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or things that you would like me to go over as topics throughout the week, I'm still going to try to do some live streams this week. Cannot make too much in the way of promises since I'm going to be out of town and going to have really terrible internet at the place where I'm staying. But we'll see what we can do. I'm really going to try hard to finally get that HTML material out with the forms and stuff. I apologize that that's taken so long, but it's just been, life is life. You get one thing after another. Happens. So with that all said, thanks very much for watching. I hope that you have the best night ever, and I will catch you later. Adios. Oh, did that not work right?